Hey everybody, my name is Caroline. Thanks for joining me for this photo booth video. In the video, you'll see I am using a Raspberry Pi 4, but I still think the Raspberry Pi 3 is the best one to use because the Raspberry Pi 4 runs really hot. This video is a redo of my Raspberry Pi photo booth video on Raspbian Buster with a Raspberry Pi 4 and with a light ring now. Let's get started. First, let me show you a quick demo of how the photo booth works. It is a Raspberry Pi with a Raspberry Pi touchscreen here. And one of the process improvements, if you've seen my other videos on the photo booth, is that I'm adding a light ring now. I noticed that some of my photos when I took it to events was a little bit dim. And I noticed if I added this light ring, which I will link to in the description below, that my photos got a lot brighter. Okay, I'm gonna turn it off because it affects the way that I do the camera work here. But just to show you, the bottom left button is to take 4 pictures, that's for a collage. The middle bottom button is to take 1 picture, and the right bottom button is to take an animation. This is if you have a printer, and I'll show you how to set up a printer in the next video. And then you can email the photo to yourself as well. Let's start with the demo. I'm gonna press the middle bottom button, and there we go. That was 1 photo, and you can email it to yourself by pressing the envelope icon in the top right-hand corner, and it does automatically upload to Google Photos. Let's continue with the demo now. Let's do a collage. A collage is 4 pictures, and I'm gonna hit the bottom left-hand corner button, and we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And here is my collage, and it's uploading to Google Photos. I can email it to myself. Next, let's move on to animation. What's an animation? Well, it's a series of pictures that they cut together into looking like an animation. Let's start with the bottom right corner button. And here it is. And here is my animation now. All right, that was fun. You can also add effects to your photo. And to do that, you would press the color palette button on the right, and then you could choose your effect, and then you'll take a picture, just like this. And here is our color effect photo. If you want to close the photo booth, I use this handy dandy little keyboard here to press the escape button, and then the closing of the photo booth button comes up, and then you have to hit quit application, or if you hit OK, then it just goes back into the photo booth. And one more thing, I'm going to cover this next week, is how to add a printer to your photo booth. And I will show you exactly how to do that. And the printer button is up here. I have made 2 photo booth videos in the past. The reason I am remaking my photo booth video is because, number one of the APIs we were using was depreciated, and the steps are just slightly a little bit different now. Number 2, the Raspberry Pi 4 just came out, and Raspbian Buster operating system along with it. And I wanted to just recover this whole thing with the latest operating system. Now let's talk about the materials that you'll need for this project. I'm using a light ring. You don't have to use a light ring, but you will need a tripod mount of some kind. Well, first of all, this is a Raspberry Pi touchscreen. This is a Raspberry Pi camera. I will link to all the materials below. And then this blue frame that you see here, it's 2 separate printed parts. And I 3D printed these myself. I will link to that for you. If you don't have a 3D printer, that's okay. You can pay somebody to print these for you on various websites, I guess. This is the Raspberry Pi. I'm using a 3 right now. In the video, you'll see me, I'll be using a 4. I'll be using the latest Raspbian Buster operating system at the time of this recording. There's a power cable right here, and I do back everything up to a flash drive, so that way at the end of the night I can download the pictures from Google Photos, or I can just take them off of this flash drive. I do have a little keyboard that helps me get on the Wi-Fi or helps me run the commands that I need when I'm on the go. That's also plugged in as well. I also have a connection shoe That's a connection shoe. It goes right here and it connects the light ring to the blue 3D printed frame so that I can put together this photo booth. And those are the main materials that you'll need for this project. And let's talk about the assembly now. We are going to start with our touch screen right here. And the first thing we're going to do is add the Raspberry Pi on top. And there are 4 screws that this touchscreen came with. I have the red cable plugged into pin number 1 and the black cable plugged into the ground. Overlay my Raspberry Pi 3 on top right here. And then I'll put those 4 screws back to attach my Raspberry Pi 3 to the touchscreen. So now we see that my Raspberry Pi 3 is attached to my touchscreen. The way that the touchscreen is powered or is through this 5 volt power and ground right here. So I'm going to plug in the 5 volts to the matching 5 volts on my Raspberry Pi GPIO. And that is pin number 2, and then I'm going to plug in the ground into pin number 6 on my GPIO. So that is the power. Now how does it get data? There's a ribbon cable that goes from your touchscreen right to the Raspberry Pi 3, and I'm going to just slide that in. I pulled up the connector, I'm pushing it down, and that should just fit just perfectly snug like that. Camera, just slide the ribbon cable. Well, I want to attach the camera to this 3D printed piece here. So now I'm putting in a nut on the other side to hold together my screws. I've got my screw on one side, got my nut on the other side. I've slid this ribbon cable in here. Now I'm going to slide this into right here, and then I'm going to take 2 more screws, and I do want to hold it in place, all 4 screws, with nuts. And why are there 6 holes and you only need 4 holes? Well, you can mount this just slightly lower as well. To now attaching the camera to this piece as well. So this piece right here is the holder that attaches to the tripod. This piece goes right on top here. And on the top, there are 2 screws. They need to be a little bit longer than the bottom 2 screws. So you need 4 screws total. So this is a 10mm M3 right here. On the other side, do the same thing. All right, so we've got these 2 screws in. Next is the bottom 2 screws. These are M3 6mm screws. Our screen is now attached to our Raspberry Pi to our camera. We do need to attach the camera ribbon cable to our Raspberry Pi 3. So we lift up on the edges here, and then we want to make sure everything lines up perfectly. Push down on the ribbon cable and then push down on the holder. So the USB ports are here as usual for Raspberry Pi. I'm going to put in my flash drive right here and also use my keyboard USB, attach that right here. And now I've got everything ready to go. I just need to add this to my tripod. And of course, this connects with the shoe to the light ring. And that's about it for the assembly. You also need, of course, to have watched my previous video on how to get the Raspbian operating system on your micro SD card and put it inside this photo booth as well. Now I'm going to assume that you have Raspbian on your micro SD card, you're ready to go, you've got the operating system, you've got it in this setup, and I'm going to start from there on the software installation for this photo booth. Now that we have all of our hardware assembled and ready to go, we can start our software installation. Now I'm using a GitHub repository for Touch Selfie Extended. That is where the code lives. It's open source code. What I have done is created a page on my GitHub called Touch Selfie Install Commands Only, and I will link to that below. It is right here on my screen, and what I'm going to do is simply put together a list of commands that I'll need to run on my terminal in order to install everything. Let me scroll down so I do show all of the equipment that I'm using. Now I am using a Raspberry Pi 4 and I am on the Raspbian Buster system. This is the latest system as of August of 2019. First we start by opening a terminal, and what we want to do is we want to enable the camera that is on top of our Raspberry Pi so that we can take pictures, right? So the first thing you need to do is a sudo raspi config. And then we're going to go down to, and I'm down arrowing to number 5, interfacing options, enter. Number 1 is a camera, hit enter, and then I'm going to hit the tab key to get to the yes. I want to enable the camera, enter, enter, OK, and then I want to tab to finish, 2 tabs, and I would like to reboot. Now, yes, OK, so now the camera will be enabled for us to use to take pictures. And we have completed the reboot. I opened up a new terminal and I went back to the same GitHub page, and we can move on to the next step. So the next step is a sudo apt-get update. And I'm gonna select it, right click to copy, and then I'm gonna hit paste right here, enter, and I'll do a quick copy. Next, I will get ready to copy the next command, sudo apt-get install python-pil, and I'm going to right click, paste, enter, and we're going to install python-pil, and we're going to keep on down the road here. Right click copy, right click paste, sudo apt-get install python-gdata, copy, and I'm just getting each command ready to go as soon as it's done. Right click paste, sudo apt-get install python imaging-tk, and then we want to upgrade our pip. Then we want to install upgrade Google API Python client, and we will upgrade OAuth 2 client. Next, we want to install the image magic. And yes, I would like to continue, enter. And now we're finally getting to the git clone of the touch selfie repository. All right, excellent. And now we should have a new folder in our home Pi, which says touch selfie extended, and this should be all of the files from the actual repository that I'm using. First thing I'm going to do is I am going to rename touch selfie extended to just touch selfie MV, and that's just less typing. So next we're going to cd into our touch selfie, and then we're going to chmod our setup, and that way we'll start the setup process. And now we're going to run the setup file. And here we go. So email sending, photo upload, image effects, not enable the software keyboard. Now I'm going to type in the email address of the Google account I am using to save all of my photos. And I did create a separate email account just to do this project with. I'm not using the one I generally send and receive emails from. Excellent. And then now I'm going to go get my app ID. And then it gives you instructions on how to get your app ID. So what you need to do is go to console.developers.google.com. First, you need to sign into your Gmail, or you can just type in console.developers.google.com, and it will prompt you to sign in. And it's prompting me on the phone here that yes, I am trying to sign in. And here I am. I'm signed into console.developers with my account. And the next thing I need to do is I'm going to click on that drop down, and I'm going to create a new project. And this project will be PhotoBooth 2019. And I'm going to hit create. I'm creating my project now. And then you see the drop down changes right here. My current project needs to be on PhotoBooth 2019. That's what I just created. And now we are on our project, PhotoBooth 2019. I'm in APIs and Services dashboard, and I'm going to enable APIs and Services. What am I going to enable? I'm going to enable photos, of course. I'm going to search for photo, and let's see, the choices are Photos Library API. I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to hit enable. And now I want to create my credentials. Excellent. So I've clicked on credentials now. I'm going to hit create credentials. I'm going to select OAuth client ID. And from my choices, I'm going to hit the radio button next to other. And then you name it. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it PhotoBooth. And then I hit enter, and then it created it. And here is my client ID and my client secret. Excellent. I'm going to hit OK. And what it does is it creates this file that you can download. And the download button is right here. It says download JSON. All right, so it says client secret. So now I'm going to go over to my file manager, go to downloads, and sure enough, here it is. Now I want to rename this file Google Client ID.json. So I'm going to copy Google Client ID and go over here, client secret. I'm going to rename this file, Control V, Google Client ID.json. All right, and then I'm moving that into touch selfie scripts. All right, so touch selfie scripts. I am moving this to touch selfie scripts. Excellent. So that's the next step. And now I'm going to go back to my TK, back to my setup file here. I'm going to get my app ID. And now it's prompting me to sign in. I'm going to choose my account. Of course, this is the account I'd like to use. Then I get this lovely, this app isn't verified. Excellent. That is what you need to see. I'm going to click the advanced button here. This is my app that I'm installing on my machine. And I am going to click advance. Then I'm going to go to PhotoBooth unsave. Yes, that is the correct process. And it is now signing in. And I'm granting PhotoBooth on my behalf. I'm going to hit allow. And I'm going to allow photos added by the app. Yes, I'd like to do that. And I would like it to add photos to my library. Yes. And I'm going to confirm my choices. And I'm going to hit allow. And my authentication flow has completed. I am back to my setup screen. So I've got my email address typed in the Google account, and I've got check marks, meaning I have the application ID, I have the credentials. So now I'm going to hit next. And now this is, if you'd like to send an email to yourself, you can personalize the email right here. Let's say, here's your photo from Caroline. And you can personalize the message. Here's your photo sent from the photo booth from Caroline's. And then there's also a little check mark box here called log email addresses. If you'd like to save the email address of every person who types in their email address, you can do so right now. And then of course you can send a test email to see if this is working. And then if it's working, you want to hit next. Now next you want to go into the Google photo album, and I'm going to hit select. So now in the Google photo album, I'm going to hit select. And now I can double click create new. So I've done this project before, so I created a photo album called Touch Selfie, but now you're not gonna have that if this is the first time you're doing this project. So I'm gonna double click on create new, and then we're gonna go to photos.google.com over here in our browser. And now I'm gonna do a test upload. And how do you know if this test upload worked? You go to photos.google.com and you'll see a colored box uploaded, and that's how you know that it worked. I'm going to go back to the setup page and I'm going to hit next. So the gist of this is that every time you take a picture, it will upload to that album. And then now we can choose to archive the snapshots locally. You're getting a backup copy of every picture. If the internet goes out while you're at your party, you will have a photo saved locally. Now what I choose to do, and this is personal preference, is I choose to get out a USB stick, insert it, and then save all the photos there. That way when I turn off this at the end of the night, then I can just remove the USB stick and then put it into a Windows machine or a Mac and then upload photos from there, just so I have another copy of the photos. I'm going to hit choose directory, and I am going to select the slash, and then I'm going to go into media and then pi, and this is the name of my USB stick, 4 gigabytes, and I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to hit save. And now all the pictures will also be saved on my USB stick. And then we go back into Touch Selfie. Let's go back to our instructions, which is on the GitHub page. We now are going to chmod the photo booth to make this an executable. And then we're going to execute to run the photo booth. And hopefully the photo booth will come up. Let's take a picture. And here is our new photo of our photo booth album, and it did upload the image, and if I want to send it to myself, I can do so. Email, escape, and if I want to quit the application, I'm going to hit escape and then hit quit application. And I did get an error on sending the email. Let's go into console.developers.google.com. So in order to send email, I did miss a step. I'm going to go back into console.developers.google.com. I'm in PhotoBooth 2019. I want to enable APIs and services, and I'm going to enable email, Gmail API, and I'm going to hit enable. All right, excellent. I'm enabling the API. Now I'm going to go back through and run the setup again, setup.sh, and I'm going to hit Next, I'm going to refresh this, make sure all my credentials are still good. Yes. And I'm going to send myself a test email. I'm going to make sure it actually works this time. I'm going to hit next, and I'm going to hit next, save. All right, there we go. So let's run this again, sudo photobooth.sh. Let's take a picture. All right, it's uploading the image. Excellent. Send myself an email, hit send, and there it goes. Let me check my email. And yes, I have my email right here. Excellent. All right, so that is the end of the PhotoBooth project. Thank you so much for watching. There is an additional step here that I didn't cover, which is if you want to print out these photos, there is a way to add a printer icon in the top left-hand corner. If you'd like to do that, you can either watch my old video that has that on there, or you can, send me a comment and say you really want to see that. If I get enough comments, I'll make a video where we add the printer on to this project. And that's how you run the PhotoBooth project. Thank you so much for joining me for this project. I'll see you next time. Please subscribe. Bye now.